got here?
No, it didn't come up yet. Takes a second sometimes. There it is. Okay. Uh-oh. Where's my remote? There it is. Guys were in here last week and they moved everything around on me. Okay. Messing with all my stuff. So we'll hang out for a minute and see if we get some people to join in today. I'm back in the studio. I was in North Carolina, South Carolina last week. Flew into Charlotte, drove down to Columbia, and spent some time with the guys from our proactive sales team. And we did a little AR building. And then we went to the range and did a little shooting. And them guys were going hog hunting Saturday night, and I couldn't go because I had a 5 o'clock plane to catch. And then I got back, and Andy was like, "Well, why didn't you just change your flight?" Like, if I'd have known that was an option, I'd have gone hog hunting. So I wonder how they did. I never did hear back. I'll have to email Mike and see how they did, see if they got anything. They got one the night before. They missed a couple, and they got one pretty good sized one the night before. So it was quite the experience on a 4,000 acre hunt club. I've never driven so far back in the woods to get to a branch or a cabin, whatever you want to call it. There was a house back there and a bunch of barns, and so it was. They told me it's about 1.5 miles off the road, and I GPSed it and used my hunt stand to lay out the. It was like 5 point something miles back in the woods. It was unbelievable. Back in the swamps. And, I emailed or I called the one guy on my way in. I talked to him. I'm like, dude, I hear banjo music back here. I got a little worried. So, okay, we got a couple people here, and my this clock seems to be, look at that, it's stuck on 351 again. Something's wrong with that clock on that. It keeps getting stuck. And then halfway through it'll update. We're looking a little laggy on the screen too. I hope everything's all right there for you guys at home. Looking a little choppy and laggy. And it keeps going to that green screen. But hopefully everything, let me know if there's any problems out there in your world. Make sure I got good sound and you can see everything's good. If not, let me know. So we kind of just started, we finished up our build series, and now we're kind of looking at all the different components of the builds. Forget, what did we talk about a couple weeks ago? I can't remember. Yeah, wow. I can't remember what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Oh, grips, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, it was grips. We talked about grips. These things. Right? We talked about grips and the different kinds of grips and why you would choose one over the others. This week we're going to take a look at muzzle devices, the different kinds of muzzle devices and what each one does or is supposed to do, and the advantages and disadvantages of each. So we'll start with the basic, which is the flash hider. This is what comes on just about every standard AR. Basic, off-the-shelf, standard, mid-low tier whatever you want to call it, entry-level ARs, right? This is what is the standard is for those is some kind of an A2 style flash hider. Usually has 5 or 6 ports along 180 degrees of the muzzle device. It's usually closed on the bottom. Okay, so what these are designed to do is, one, bust up the fireball, right? The fireball that comes out the barrel of your gun, the unspent powder that burns off outside. It's even more pronounced on short barrels. You don't get a lot of it on the longer barrels. The powder, has enough time to burn off before it exits the barrel. But these are designed to take that fireball and bust it up into smaller pieces and reduce that signature. Okay, so if you're firing at night or low light conditions, you're not getting that big flash of light that's going to blind you temporarily. And in a tactical situation, you're also not addressing your location as badly, right? It's a lot easier for someone who could want to be shooting back at you to see that big fireball, right? And then they know where to shoot back at. If that fireball's busted up and the signature isn't as pronounced, it becomes harder for them to see that and harder for them to zero in on your position. You place these on typically with a crush washer, and they're oriented so that this closed area is on the bottom side of the gun. The 180 degrees of openings are towards the top. What that does is it vents the gases out to the top and helps keep the gun pushed down. As the gases vent up, it pushes the gun down. So the natural recoil, the natural muzzle rise or flip that you get is reduced because the gases are pushing down against this closed surface of the muzzle device. So it helps keep the gun down. These don't do a lot for recoil mitigation. There's not much built in here for recoil mitigation. They're designed to bust up flash and to help keep the front of the gun in the downward position. We talked about how the pistols have such a dramatic fireball, and that's because of, like I said, the unspent powder that's coming out the end of the barrel. The short 7.5, 10.5 inch hasn't had enough time for all that powder to burn. So what happens is, as it exits the barrel, it burns off outside the barrel, and that's why you get that large concussive fireball. On the pistols, what we like to use is what we call a flash can. Now, this is almost a linear compensator, but not quite. I've heard these called linear compensators. I don't really think of this as a linear compensator in my mind. Like, again, I think of this more as a flash redirection can. Okay, it's open. It's made out of aluminum. It's very light. And the reason we can make it out of aluminum and not have it is because the front is open. The blast, the concussion isn't trapped inside. Being made out of relatively thin-walled aluminum, if there was a face on this and all the blast was trapped inside, you might worry about that thing actually busting open over time under pressure over a lot of shots, especially as it gets hot. You might worry about that thing busting open on you. But because it's open and all the blast can just exit forward, okay, that's what it's designed to do, is flash redirection. Right? It's pushing all the concussive blast, all the flash, all the sound that way. Okay? You're not getting the people on the side of you aren't getting blasted. They aren't getting their hair blown back. Now, I'm not going to get a whole lot of hair blown back. But so, these are real nice for the pistols. And, I've even seen some indoor ranges where if you don't have one of these on your AR pistol, they're kind of hesitant to let you shoot it because the people next to you really suffer. You're only you have a little area about 3 foot wide to shoot in, and the person right here is next to you, and you're out at the end, and that concussive blast is going that way, and the guy right next to you is not having a good time. So these are really nice for redirecting all that sound. Now, With a pistol, not so much. Uh, but I have put these on a 16-inch barreled rifle and shot them without hearing protection, and my ears didn't hurt when I was done. It redirected the sound well enough that it didn't hurt my ears. I didn't have ringing ears when I was done. I could shoot without any hearing protection on a 16-inch rifle. Now on a shorter 7.5, 10.5 inch, not so much, because that's so much closer to that blast. But with a rifle length system and beyond, these can actually be used and not hurt your hearing real bad. I don't recommend it. Always wear hearing protection, but I did do it just as an experiment, and it did work. Muzzle brakes, okay. Muzzle brakes are designed to do several things, and these actually, they call them muzzle brakes. They call them compensators. This is more of a compensator, I guess, because it also has venting in the top, and it has walls. What happens is you see these walls that are produced in these cavities. There's 3 cavities here. The blast comes out. There's a larger hole at the back to allow all the blast through into the first wall. As the bullet goes through the opening in the first wall, it sucks a certain amount of that blast through with it that then hits the second wall. And as it passes through that wall, it sucks a little more of that blast through with it until it hits the third wall. Now, as those blasts continue to hit that wall, what they're actually doing is putting pressure forward on those walls. So the recoil that you feel coming back into your shoulder is mitigated because the gun is actually being pulled forward a little bit by the blast hitting these walls. That's where you get the braking action, they call it, muzzle brake. So when you hear them talk about the braking action, that's what they're talking about, is the pushing of those gases against those walls that then want to move the gun forward and away from your shoulder. My buddy Ken Whitmore did a video. If you look up his videos on muzzle devices, he did a couple years ago. He did a really cool experiment. He put a plastic sheet down on a table, and then he built a slide and had it lined with plastic on the bottom. And he took an AR and he cradled it in there and locked it all in, and he had a string that he was pulling the trigger with, so he wasn't putting pressure on it, right? And so he was standing back and he fired the AR with no muzzle device whatsoever, and you could see the slide move back 6, 8, 10 inches from the recoil of the gun. And then he was doing different muzzle devices, and he was putting these muzzle devices on there and then firing the gun again and seeing, and I forget which one he used, that was just, it was unbelievable, the difference. The non-brake, no brake, no muzzle device whatsoever, the gun moved backwards a good 10, 12 inches on that slide. And when he put that muzzle brake on, it maybe moved back 2 or 3 inches, maybe that much. It was a drastic difference. You could see the difference that a decent or a good muzzle brake makes in the recoil that you feel in your shoulder. Now, these holes in the top act like these holes, okay? They allow a certain amount of gas to escape up, which brings the gun back down level. So these not only allow the gun to be pulled forward to mitigate recoil, they also help mitigate rise. Not as drastically as something like this that has has obviously more holes and more venting in it, but this does help mitigate rise. Downside to these, very loud, because now instead of all that sound going that way, it's going this way. Okay, and you hear it much more pronounced, and the people next to you hear it much more pronounced. Some of these tanker brakes, where it actually angles back, right? The gases are vented back. I had a guy a couple years ago. I took my daughter up to Range USA up here. She was getting ready to take her CCW course, and I took her in to do some practice. And they gave me a lane, and I was getting set up on the lane, and I looked, and this guy next to us, all of a sudden I saw this tanker brake come out the end of the out the end of the lane over here, and I don't know. I think it was a 308 he was shooting. It was a large caliber, and I mean when he ripped that thing off, I was like, whoa! I went right over to the range safety officer. I said, we need another lane. I can't shoot next to this. I can't have my daughter shooting next to this, right? I could probably handle it, but I mean, the blast was just, it was incredible the way the blast was hitting me. And he gave us another lane to shoot on. So very loud, redirects gases in directions you don't necessarily want, but great for follow-up shots. It keeps you on target. As you're shooting, instead of coming up and coming back down and trying to find your target again and shooting and finding, right? This thing is bang, bang, bang. You're staying level. You're staying on target so you can shoot at that target faster. You're not having to come up, come back down, or being forced up, coming back down and having to reacquire your target. You're staying on target or staying much closer to your target with one of these. This is, to me, this is probably the one I like best. This is what, a true linear compensator. So this has a little bit of the best of all worlds. Okay. So you can see this screws onto the end of your barrel, just like any other of the devices. So this has flash suppression. You can see the holes in the front. They bust up the fireball. So you get the flash suppression of a flash suppressor. You get that busted up fireball. You get the flash forwarding effect. Okay? Everything is pushed forward because it's trapped in here and it only can come out here. So everything is pushed forward. You also have a certain amount of wall back here. You don't have as much wall as you do with a muzzle brake, obviously, because you have the 3 walls here and it's typically a bigger diameter, but you do have a wall back here. Okay. And that allows that blast to hit that wall and gives you the braking action. So you get flash suppression, you get flash redirection, sound redirection, and you get muzzle braking action with this. So for me, this is my kind of my go-to. I like these the best. I have one of these on my 350. This is a linear compensator. And you can get a flash hider for $12, $15, $20. You can get a flash redirection can for $20, $30, $40. You can get a muzzle brake starting at $30, $40 and as high as $200 or $300, depending on the engineering behind it. And there's some that are just fantastic. And then linear compensators, anywhere from $30, $40 on up to $100 for something like this. The last thing we're going to talk about is kind of the holy grail of muzzle devices, and that is the suppressor, right? This is a Dead Air Nomad 30 with the chemo system. Okay, quick detach. I really like this. I love the chemo system. Direct thread is nice, but for changeability, I want to swap this from one gun to another. I want to take it off to clean. I want to, whatever it is I need to do. You can see how easy that goes on and off. Okay. And what you have with this system is you basically have a flash hider of whatever style you like. These 3 prongs are nice. Here's just kind of a standard flash hider. And they have the notches cut in them that interface with the chemo system on your can. And we all know what a suppressor does, right? It reduces the sound. Hollywood would have you believe that a silencer can't be heard by the guy sitting in the living room while you're shooting somebody in the bedroom. Well, that's just not true. Yes, they reduce sound. Good ones, can reduce sound quite a bit. And with subsonic ammo, you can get pretty quiet. Ideally, these things are designed to reduce the decibel level by 30, 40 points. So you're going from dangerous to hearing safe. You can shoot these without hearing protection and not damage your hearing. The the downside here is that now you've suddenly put more back pressure into your system, right? You have, for the all intents and purposes, added 6-7 inches to the length of your barrel. Okay, so you're creating more back pressure. The more back pressure feeds through your gas system and back to your bolt carrier group, and this could cause cycling issues. So typically, what you do is you have to put an adjustable gas block on a system like this to tone the gas down a little bit. So that's what an adjustable gas block, and we'll take a look at those in a couple of weeks probably. You can dial and close off the gas port so that as you create that extra back pressure, you're not getting the gas feeding back into your system and causing you to have issues in your cycling. An overgassed gun can cause stovepiping, double feeding. It can just cause a host of issues, in here, that your ammo isn't feeding properly. It's cycling so fast that the bullet actually spins around and goes back in backward. Comes in, the empty case comes in backwards, and you end up, or you get the dreaded double feed, right, over the one under the bolt carrier group, one over the bolt carrier group. Those horrendous jams that can happen sometimes with an overgas gun. So when you get to the point where you're ready to do a suppressor, just remember that you're probably going to need a adjustable gas block. Now, there are some new suppressors coming out on the market, and this one, I had some guys in yesterday, and we were talking about suppressors and some different items for suppressors, and they had a couple of Hux Works, and I forget what the other one was, but they have venting. The excess gas is vented out the top around the front of this suppressor on the Hux Works and that, so that excess gas isn't backfeeding through the system. So you don't necessarily need an adjustable gas block with some of these new suppressors. Really cool stuff, man. I mean, these things were 3D printed titanium. And I'm like, man, how do they 3D? I'd love to watch that process. 3D printed titanium. And these things were this is fairly light, but they were half the weight of this. And they were just super light. So. And what's nice about this is you don't really need any timing, with this kind of. Now, there are a couple of them that you would want to time if you're just going to run them without the suppressor, because they're cut like these, okay, where you want the gases to expel up. This is cut all the way around, so the gases just come out everywhere. And the same with the 3-prong. You really don't have to worry too much about timing with those. So you don't need a crush washer necessarily on those. You can just direct thread those right on and then tighten it up and then put your suppressor on and away you go. So we got, flash hiders, right? Bust up the flash, helps mitigate muzzle flip or muzzle rise. We got flash redirection cans that are great for pistols. They push all the sound, blast, everything downrange. We got muzzle brakes that mitigate recoil and rise. Disadvantages, they're extremely loud. And then we have linear compensators that are kind of what I call the best of all worlds, or the best of all three worlds. They gives you a little bit of all three of those in one compact little unit. And then obviously you step up to the holy grail of suppression. So if you haven't shot suppressed, it's for, I was like, I don't know what the big hype is. I don't know. We'll see. So I went out and bought one, and it is pretty cool. you shoot the first time you shoot one without it, and then you put that thing on, and it's a pretty drastic difference, and it's pretty cool. Some of the sound messes with you though. Like there was a guy at the range last summer, and he was shooting one, and we were actually standing off to the side watching him shoot, and it was weird how the sound actually he's shooting from right here, but the gun sounds like it's going off downrange. And what is happening is the blast, the concussive blast that comes out the end of the gun is trapped in here. So that sound, that boom is trapped in here. The crack that you hear is actually from supersonic ammo. Now with subsonic ammo, you don't get it because subsonic ammo is not breaking the speed, the barrier of the speed of sound, what they call the speed of sound barrier. Supersonic ammo breaks the speed of sound barrier, so you get that sonic boom, right? That, like, you know, you hear a jet, when a jet goes by and it's breaking the sound barrier, it creates a sonic boom. Well, that ammo does the same thing, but it doesn't do it immediately. When it comes out the end of the barrel, it does it a little bit down, right? Down range just a little bit. And that's why it sounds like when you're, especially when you're standing off to the side, like he's shooting right here at the table, but it sounds like somebody's shooting 20, 30 foot ahead, even further sometimes. It's kind of it's definitely weird. But, howdy, Russ. How's the new job? Marcy, are you still in Florida? Sorry about your father-in-law. I saw the news yesterday on Facebook. Wait to see if, yeah, still in Florida. You got to come back for Memorial Day. Memorial Day coming up in 2 weeks. You got to get your butt back up here. See if anybody else has any comments or questions, or yeah, tell John too that you know, Lisa and I are both sorry to hear about his dad. I think he was 89. I think so. I thought I read he was 89. That's pretty good. I'd take that. I'd sign that contract today. 89's a good long life. Good. I'm glad the job's doing well. This time of year, Florida's too hot for me. I don't like it. It was starting to get a little too hot in the Carolinas last week. I was like, it was 88, 89 degrees down there in Columbia on Saturday, and I was sweating. Almost starting to get a little too hot. About 4 or 5 more degrees, I'd have been miserable. Us big guys don't do well in the heat. We start to melt. I'd be spending all my time in the pool. Just lounge around in the pool all day. I keep looking at the time and it still says 3:51. I gotta. Okay. So, all right. So that's muzzle devices. Next week, we're gonna take a look at handguards, the different types of handguards, different lengths of handguards, different styles of handguards, and trying to, you know, choose which one is best for you based on what it is you want it to do and what you want to achieve with it. And then we are also going to, because the week after is Memorial Day, we are going to have, yeah, I saw you guys were down there fishing. It looked like fun. I saw the pictures. We are going to start the signups next week after we do the handguard show for the following week through to the Tuesday after Memorial Day. And we are going to give away, and I don't have one here right now, but you guys have all seen, we've given them away over the years. The Old Glory American flag handguard. And we're going to give away one of those for Memorial Day. So next week, after the handguard show, we'll have a sign-up sheet. You can like and comment on the show to get entered, and we'll also have a sign-up sheet on our website where you can go into the website and sign up to get for the giveaway. So remember, giveaway coming up Memorial Day. Old Glory American Flag Handguard. May even have a couple of other prizes. We may have grab a couple of things and give away a couple of second and third prizes. We usually do that. But the main thing is going to be the Old Glory handguard. But as we get closer, we'll throw a couple extra things in there. Maybe a linear compensator and an angled foregrip, or who knows what. We'll have a couple other little goodies to give away as a part of that. Yeah, my cousin was just down there in southern Florida fishing for bass with some outfitter down there. And holy mackerel, he's sending pictures and just 5, 6, 7 pound bass, one after the other, one after the. It's just unbelievable the bass they were catching. Levi, what's going on, buddy? Yeah, he was having a ball down there, and then they went out on the ocean one day, and they were catching all kinds of grouper and some cobias. I think he said they were. Yeah, catching all kinds of fish down there. His name's Jimmy too. He's Jimmy Wiggins too. So if you see, I'm on Facebook. I'm James William Wiggins, and on Facebook he's just Jimmy Wiggins. But we're cousins. James was our grandfather's name. James Paul. All right, so that's all I got this week for muzzle devices. It's just a matter of choosing which one's right for you based on your applications. And, like I said, this I like for hunting. It gives me that braking action. It gives me that flash suppression, and it moves the sound down range. I don't have to wear hearing protection when I'm hunting, and I don't get my ears blasted out when I shoot at a deer. If I was competition shooting, I'd probably want to look at a muzzle brake to help keep my gun flat and level and keep me on target quicker, faster. And, for my pistol, I want some sound moving down range away from me and, flash suppression in a tactical situation. I want to bust up my flash. I don't want anyone to see where I'm shooting from. So it's all a matter of personal preference, and what it is you want to do with your gun is going to kind of dictate what muzzle device you want to put on that gun. So I appreciate everybody joining me this week. Remember, handguards next week, and then the sign up for the Old Glory handguard giveaway. I got to keep looking at the time here, make sure I don't let time get away from me. I got to get home and get cleaned up and get to church tonight. All right. So I appreciate everybody joining me. Join me next week, and we'll continue looking at the different aspects of the components of your AR and why you would want certain stuff over other stuff. So appreciate y'all. I'll see you next week. Remember, you don't have to be an expert to build your own AR, to upgrade it or maintain it. We're here to do that. We're here to help you do that. And okay, we'll see you. See you soon, Marcy. Yeah, I imagine you'll be back up here pretty quick. So, all right, we'll see you guys. Thanks.